Welcome. Today we have a guest. We're speaking with Brian Colligan, founder of Alpha Growth, head of growth at Compound. So you may not be as familiar with Alpha Growth as you are with Compound. Well, Compound is sort of working directly with, and even, the two have become nearly indistinguishable with Alpha Growth. Welcome, Brian. Thanks for joining us. There's a lot of spicy stuff that we're going to get into in a second, but for those who didn't see the first sort of installment of this interview, which was a few weeks ago, can you remind us what Alpha Growth is and what their interaction is with Compound?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're think of us as a management firm, growth firm, business development. So all new assets, all new markets, all new chain deployment. We came up with a business model for the DAO and trying to help restructure the DAO to make it profitable. Currently, the Compound DAO is not profitable, and we're working on business deals and growth and strategies to make it a profitable DAO and protocol so it's sustainable, and sustainable DAOs are moral. Right now, we're just burning capital, and we need to stop doing that from the treasury.
Well, okay, that's kind of interesting. I know that we've seen a bunch of DAOs attempt to monetize their money in some meaningful way, their treasuries, effectively. How are you guys working towards that end? Is it like get it lent out, do some aggregation layer stuff?
Yeah, so we have a couple different plays going on with the Gauntlet and the Air Vaults, where the reserves, when we have like over reserves, they're basically going to put right back into the compound markets, and they're earning interest. You know, we believe at Alpha Growth that there's potentially better plays to use the capital to earn more interest than just call it like, 3% on ETH and 8% on USDC, or 7.5% last year, trailing 12 months on average, which is pretty good. But it's not massive. I think the beta rates out there for like stablecoin yields are like up. They float from like 10% to 15% right now. So should we use it in our own products so that we can get more utilization and kind of do it that way? There's some challenges in conversations on what a DAO should be and how it should use its treasury and working capital. Currently, there's right $64 million in the treasury. The DAO burns around $14 million a year. So if you do a back of the envelope calculation, there's about 4 years of runway left. We generate around 12 million a year in reserves, but we have not tapped into the reserves yet. There's a lot of questions on whether or not it's legal, or whether or not we should tap into the reserves or just leave it there as an insurance fund. So we're close if we could tap into the reserves, but how we should do it and what should be done is a big question that is going on currently within Compound.
Now, is the question effectively like we see that there is this, we can get X on lending to Compound. Perfect. That's great because it also provides lend-side liquidity. That's amazing. But if the hurdle rate for, let's just say, yields for ETH is, I don't know, you could maybe get like 10%, even on like PTs on Fendel, for example. That would give more sustainability to Compound and Alpha Growth as like an entity. So is that kind of the argument and discussion happening over there?
Exactly. Like,
it's also strategic partnerships, though, because if the DAO then puts any capital in those partners, then there may be some tailwinds for Compound itself.
That's right. And then there's a proposal up currently right now between Polygon, Morpho, and Compound that's really interesting. And I honestly think we want to restructure the deal a little bit more, but it is curious, right? So if we have these isolated money market vaults on Polygon, is it Compound anymore, right? Or are we just hosting these vaults on the front end? And who gets the TVO? Who gets the yield? Who gets the exposure? What's the long-term tail risk of Morpho turning on a fee switch at some point in time in the future? And then, there's a lot of questions. We have a lot of questions that we're looking to answer. I mean, some of this is the BD business core in the weeds of protocol, and it's, there's some audience, and then there's kind of like other spicy things that we have coming down the roadmap that we want to market this year too, but happy to go into either direction.
So question there is, would Compound be acting as a curator in that capacity, or would it...
Gauntlet on Compound's behalf would be acting as a curator. The Morpho vaults would go on the Compound interface, and the Polygon and Morpho are asking for $1.5 million from Polygon and $1.5 million of incentives from Compound itself for the privilege of servicing and presenting those vaults.
That there seems like a lot to unpack there. I don't want to necessarily get into the weeds, but eager to see how that sort of unfolds as it does. Now, You guys are going to be at ETH Denver. I'll be at ETH Denver too, by the way. Hopefully, we'll see each other there, and even I think you might even be coming to the event. Now at ETH Denver, there may be some announcements. I know you guys have sort of tapped into a little bit of AI stuff.
Yeah, I could talk about that. There's going to be a big public announcement, and the alpha is launching here. We've been working on a stabilization vault, and with conjunction with Arbitrum.
So before we go into that, what is a stabilization vault? What does that mean?
Okay. So there's two types of vaults. The first one that we're launching is a yield chaser vault for stablecoins. So think Bridge USDC, USDC Native, and Tether are all on Arbitrum with fluctuating rates, right? So it might be 8% for one, 4% for another, 5% for another. And so what this vault does is it places your stablecoin into the highest rate stablecoin and just rebalances. It checks every hour, checks every some certain number of blocks, and then if there is a higher interest rate, then it swaps from USDT into USDC, does some calculations to see whether it's profitable, what the time horizon is on that, and then switches into the higher vault, right? So it's a rebalancing mechanism.
So it's a yield optimizer with a basket of stable coins. Now, what are the underlying protocols for that vault? Compound. Okay, so is it just Arbitrum or is it cross-chain?
We're starting with Arbitrum. We have a grant announcement that's up and coming. We're going through the final details, but Arbitrum has reached out and said this is really interesting. We want things around the AI nature, and so there's an AI component to this as well. And the AI component is something that you can install and chat with on Twitter, or you can chat with on Telegram to then interact and get contracts to get in and out of the vault. We have a little bit of a cool mechanism design as well with some bonding curves. So the receipt token is going to be called Bobby and is sort of like a meme coin, and it talks within the voice and the writing of Robert Leshner. So we consumed everything he's ever written and everything he's ever said and generated it into an LLM. And then the vault, the mechanic is just a simple yield chaser. The token has a bot. You can chat with the bot. You can talk to it about your own personal address. You can see where it's at and where the different rates are at, and ask it questions on what has happened in the past.
Now, what does holding the receipt token entitle you to anything aside from the underlying yield?
So there's going to be some fluctuating memeability where
there might be some premium.
There might be some premium, right? So we have a bonding, so you can bond for a period of time into the vault, and then you will get it at a discounted rate.
Oh.
As well as creating pools around the token and the AI token itself, which is a receipt token to receive the underlying collaterals, right?
So it does have an NAV.
NAV, yes, it does.
Okay, so like theoretically, you could redeem Bobby for the underlying value.
Stables.
Awesome. Correct. All right, perfect.
And then as those differences, the market cap difference of the token differentiates from the underlying yield, we have a whole entire tokenomics and token person who built the model so that it will effectively look at the bonding rates to see how much is redeemable, that then generates an interest rate on the holdings that is a premium above the stabilization rates, depending upon liquidity and liquidity depth and how many people have bonded.
So if a person wanted to enter into this, let's just say they want to mint Bobby. Could they mint Bobby at the NAV value, or would they have to mint it at the premium value?
And this is where the flywheel comes into play, right? So the flywheel is supposed to be when market cap is below, then the minting would be at a...
You'd want to buy, you'd want to purchase.
Right, you're right. You want to purchase. Now you can purchase from the pool or you can mint, right? And then as it reaches a premium, then we've modeled out the redemption cycle dependent upon the bonds and dependent upon the liquidity. It'll have a interest rate on top of the underlying real yield stablecoin yield interest rate. Oh. And that fluctuates depending upon the Oracle price when how much is bonded.
To try to get it back down to NAV effectively. So, but it adds yield to
a little bit of pump. A little pump is okay. It's fun.
Well, then what's to prevent people from just minting and immediately dumping, unless they can't mint at NAV? Like they have to mint at some specific value.
Right. There's a specific value in a discount. And so when you go to mint, you can mint at a bonded rate with a discount. And then it'll be locked up at I think it's 7 days, 1 month, 6 months lockup. And then you get a discounted rate. Or you can just do it at the NAV value, which will be whatever market price is.
So why wouldn't arbitragers just immediately mint the NAV whenever there's a premium? That's what you want. Okay. So that's it. Right. You want to incentivize that.
We want more stable coins.
Right. And when there is a premium, then somehow that premium participates in adding additional interest to the underlying. Oh, this is cool. I mean, it does kind of remind me of at its best, not at its worst, because literally had like thousands of percents of premium. Always had NAV, by the way. Like, a lot of people think Ohm was kind of just this Ponzi meme coin, but Ohm actually had an NAV. The Olympus team, I mean, we don't need to get into the Olympus team. I actually kind of like the Olympus team and what they've been doing over at Parachain, but totally unrelated to Compound today. That's actually really cool.
There's definitely some inspiration there. I think the interest rates just went off the charts. And then as you kind of drift away, then we have to limit the interest rates and change the bonding rates and the premiums as the market cap goes. If it goes nuts, that's great, right? So people can just sell to get it back to the NAV, or they can, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen, to be honest, on this particular vault, but we have a bunch of incentives to figure it out and to try.
Yeah, who's behind this? This sounds like a non-trivial thing to have built or to even have ideated.
Okay, so originally how I got back into crypto for the third time was doing the go-to-market and marketing for a company called Similia Finance, a project called Similia Finance. Mm-hmm. And one of the individuals there spun off his own project called Paloma. He's been building yield chasers on Curve and Aave. Private and some stuff semi-public, but the chain's called Paloma, and they've been building these vaults for about a year now, these yield chaser vaults. And so we partnered with them on the AI portion, the launch of the token and the yield chaser vault. And so it's going to be exciting, right? We're going to learn a whole bunch in the process.
I love this. Okay, so that's super sweet. What's the like estimated time of arrival for this? Like Q2 or
fleet in 2 days. The launch is we just have to go through security audits.
Sure.
And then after that, we have a new front end on Compound that's going through pen test. And so the new front end of Compound, we think it'll be like a little bit more usable. That we've had for a fact that the current Compound Finance website is not ideal. But so we went through like usability and we'll have a vault section. And you have all the security audits and have the interest rates and then have these different types of bonds. The whole goal for Compound in essence on Arbitrum is to figure out how to get more sticky, lendable stakes, right? Yeah. So that's with the AI narrative and this bonding mechanism, we believe that it will drive a lot more activity within the market and drive around, a little bit slipstreaming the AI narrative. And a lot of the AI stuff that we've seen or I've seen personally is cool and interesting, but it feels very speculative and very
meme coins with the chatbot, right? I think that's been the tagline. This is not going to be a meme coin with the chatbot. This is going to be like a lending optimizer, right? Yes. A tokenized lending optimizer that happens to also have an LLM component, but also this bonding mechanism, which could introduce additional yield on top of that sort of NAV from lending. That I think is the most interesting thing. I mean, LLMs are fun and they're cool. I totally get that, especially one with like this specific personality.
I had a lot of internal discussions on this. All right. So you have a car?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. What's the purpose of a car?
To travel around.
Travel around, right? So the yield chaser is the car, right? Right. Travel around. The LLM is the radio.
I'll take that. Right. Yeah. It's the flavor. It gives it additional personality. It also gives it memetics, right? So now you can, if Bobby is on X or Twitter or, whatever you want to call it nowadays, and it's constantly communicating, you have this built-in marketing system for an actual product rather than just this built-in marketing thing for its own meme, right? I think that's an additional value that is being slept on right now because we haven't seen it before. We haven't, in my opinion, we haven't seen an LLM on Twitter, one of these AI bots that has an actual valuable underlying. So, you know what? That's true. You said 2 days, but let's
we got to go through security audits, right?
So that usually has
probably 3 weeks after to a month.
Okay. Right. When are we going to get like a sneak peek on the front end and what this might look like in more details or white paper?
The goal is December.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I made you leak so much ahead of time, but hey, you know what? That's what you do.
We got to get it out there and get people excited, and it'll drive enforcing function on some of our side to get the security audits and it up on the website.
That is sweet. And also, so on top of this, like this idea of lending aggregators has kind of blown up. I've talked about like Superform before. I talked about IPOR, both protocols that I like. And we've seen sort of, I don't know what the word for it is, unoptimized lending markets on chains. Now, you mentioned that you guys are going to start on Arbitrum. By the way, I love Arbitrum. Such a great chain that I think lost a lot of the mind share when Blast came out, when Base came out, when Solana was like the place for meme coins. But then if you're doing a lot of transactions on EVMs, you're probably either doing them on Ethereum or Arbitrum. Let's be real. And so to see Arbitrum get a lot of love again, to me, is heartwarming. I mean, I also look optimism, but Arbitrum's sort of been like the hub of DeFi for anyone who doesn't want to play Ethereum gas historically. So you said maybe that this optimizer might go cross-chain. Now, that obviously would boost overall yields because on less liquid chains, you have higher borrow rates for obvious reasons. So this would normalize lending rates across chains, which is something that is desperately needed.
Phase 3, right? So phase 1 is get the bonding mechanism correct, get the AI correct, get the yield chaser on a single chain correct. Yep. Then phase 2 would be like, let's try it on 2 chains. Maybe this is an entire liquidity layer, but a stabilization vault for stables on Compound with an AI LLM that you can communicate with, get information, having bonding rates, locking up capital for longer periods of time at the best interest rates within the Compound ecosystem.
And like the cool thing about this too is that sure, the first one coming out might be a stablecoin optimizer, but the next one might be an ETH optimizer. Because ETH borrow rates have been volatile. Like, for example, borrowing ETH on Base Chain, because people are speculating there might be sort of a Base token airdrop. So I've seen a lot of people eagerly looping like CB ETH or, EtherFi ETH over on Compound and spiking that interest rate up. If there was a normalizer, you would see that interest rate be the same as ETH's interest rate, for example, but with the added benefit of this sort of like theoretical Base airdrop in the future.
Look, this wasn't based off of like any like, oh, I sat in an ivory tower and like thought this up and like, oh, how do I do this? No, this was because there's a business need here. The business need is these loopers. If the interest rates go wonky, they're not profitable to loop. So if you talk like lending in general and the direct competition Aave, $8 billion out of their $15 billion of utilization is in ETH loops. More than half.
That makes sense. Yeah.
On LSTs and LRTs, right?
Right.
So when we work with these LRT clients, right, and I call them clients, but really like we're servicing them, we're providing a service on a market and loop. If that if that rate flips, their loops become unprofitable. And in these activity windows of like high velocity and volatility of these different rates, these opportunities spurs. So the more that we can depress the volatility of the Ethereum lending rate, the more capital that we can get into our markets.
Right, exactly right. And also, there's a trust component here, which is like people want to enter into these loops with a lot of capital, trusting that the interest rate will have some degree of stability. If they know that there's some underlying mechanism that is normalizing these rates across chain, they're going to be way more eager to go to a new chain that might have some airdrop component, that might have some points component, that might have some additional incentives from like a foundation, and say, hey, I know that these rates will be normalized similarly to the major chains. Now I can go there sort of with confidence and loop to my heart's content.
And then we can provide, after we get the ETH stabilization and the stablecoin stabilization, we can start on the ultimate goal, which is the Compound liquidity layer.
Explain this to me like I'm an idiot.
I know, dude, it gets wonky. All right, so what's the value of Comp as a token, right? It's governance. It's got some liquidity pools. It doesn't have that much utility, right? So we have this concept called comp everywhere. And the concept of comp everywhere is to less comp as a collateral asset across all the markets. Okay. So effectively what we could do then is not just have a stablecoin stabilization vault or an Ethereum stabilization vault by leveraging comp and the collateral factors of comp and the borrow rate. We can create a stabilization vault for the comp token itself. In essence,
giving you an intrinsic yield.
Getting comp and intrinsic yield and making a stabilization layer for the entire ecosystem of all the markets on Compound.
How does that create a stabilization layer for all? You mean just for the Compound token?
Well, it creates a yield for the Compound token and it starts to stabilize. So if you have ETH on mainnet and you have ETH on Arbitrum and the premium is on Arbitrum, you borrow the ETH on Ethereum and you lend on Arbitrum when it's profitable.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah.
Right. So we can go do what other protocols are doing and spend tens of millions of dollars on launching a new chain, or we can create a cross-chain messaging layer with a stabilization mechanism design on the comp token to create a liquidity layer intrinsically just through messages.
Okay, I need to understand more about how the comp token plays here. So because comp is the collateral for borrowing the ETH if the ETH borrow rate was lower than the yield rate on another chain. Got it. Okay, and that gives an intrinsic yield. Okay, I understand now. Whew. Hey, it's morning time. All right, you need a few moments to get this. Now that's actually really exciting. So we've sort of talked about some alpha here, what's coming up, what's launching, what you can expect at ETH Denver from you guys. You mentioned to me today something about OEVs, which, from my days back in college used to mean like open-eyed visuals that you would get from like doing LSD. I'm way past that, and now OEV means something different. What does OEV mean in crypto, and sort of what is the drama around this that we've sort of seen emerge in recent days?
Okay, so there's a question of what a DAO and a protocol is, and how it makes money, and should it make money. So the intrinsic question at point is there's a mechanism design called Oracle extractable value, and what this means is that the Oracle does the liquidation instead of letting anybody come into the liquidation. The Oracle itself auctions off the liquidation to searchers. That auctioning off of the liquidation, whatever the premium is, through that auction rate, that would be split between the Oracle and the OEV provider and the DAOs.
So that creates some misaligned incentives, because then the oracles may want to intentionally liquidate or create oracles that would be more likely to liquidate just to get, okay, I see. This is spicy.
So if you start to manipulate the price feed,
right,
or like a 10th of degree here, 10th of degree there, like where's the line? And so you have to really, really draw the line and have clarity here. It's risky for the protocol, because then you could start to create bad habits on, hey, you were a 10th of a cent away from a liquidation price. Let me liquidate you entirely. It starts to incentivize liquidations, and you're kind of getting into this predatory line. So it has to be done very judiciously and like very conservatively, right?
Now, sort of in the same vein, we've seen the rise of NAV oracles, rise of fundamental oracles, the rise of even hard-coded oracles, which has been sort of a surprise to me that in 2024 and 25, we saw the rise of what I would consider more outdated tech. Do NAV oracles in any way solve this, or is the issue still there, but in this case, less dependent upon price and more dependent upon, interest rate increasing to maybe like an NAV oracle that's slightly off?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of questions here. We did have a situation occur on Mantle recently. I think it was like a week and a half ago. We had a Black Swan event. Great. We all did massive liquidations where it generated around $140,000 worth of Oracle extractable value on the Mantle network using the API 3 OEV mechanism, right? So this thing can be intensely profitable, right?
Right.
So as a growth guy, as a business guy, I'm like, yes, this is awesome, but like it's still untested. And most of our liquidations, I would say like 96-97% of the liquidations happen on Ethereum mainnet. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of trust in here, and the trust is wrong inherently around the price feed, and then who has access to those liquidations. When you have it open or semi-open, if you have the knowledge, you can get access to the liquidations. Does the constriction of OEV and how that mechanism design works allow for still an open network of people to get access to the liquidations? Can you balance the difference between the profit and the price feed manipulation, right? If there's price feed manipulation, the game doesn't work anymore. And so we've been looking a lot at insurance. There's three parts that we've been looking at insurance, right? So price feed insurance, smart contract risk insurance, and bad debt insurance. So and we're going to be actively going after insurance in 2025 to cover and insure the compound protocol.
Fascinating. So in this case, like my mind immediately says bad debt would be the worst thing, right? You have some sort of liquidation that the debt can't cover. Unlikely, because you guys have quite a bit of a buffer between max LTV and then LLTV. But like, let's say there are other protocols out there. So let's say some other protocol has this issue and they want to benefit from OEV, but at the same time, they want to ensure the protocol doesn't take any risks. Insurance would be one way to do that. Would you need insurance for any other aspect of this sort of mechanism?
So you have it on the collateral, you have it on the smart contract, you have it on the price feed, and you have it out in the collateral factors and the configuration.
Okay, what would insurance on a price feed mean?
Insurance on the price feed would be if there is price feed manipulation, somebody can submit a claim that there was price feed manipulation, and then this is going to really release some more alpha, potentially slash restart.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's neat. Okay. So would this be like something integrating with what's the name of that Oracle protocol or eOracle? So like eOracle is doing restaking related oracles.
Potentially, right?
Okay.
But there's two different projects we're talking to in the rest staking space and running an AVS as an insurance policy as an AVS,
Right.
to generate yield for LRTs and restaking, and then have that slashing mechanism be part of the claims adjusted.
Right. So you're outsourcing the robustness of the Oracle to a restaking protocol that doesn't ever want to get slashed, so they have an economic incentive to ensure that they are providing you the best Oracle feed.
Correct.
Oh, that's so cool.
And there might be different insurance prices on particular Oracle feeds.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is really cool. I mean, I know some people often watch these videos for yields. So I will say, by the way, guys, if you're borrowing stable coins against Fire Bitcoin on Mantle, you're getting paid to do it. So, anyone who wants to leverage BTC, why would you not? I mean, leveraging can be scary, but getting paid to borrow is kind of fun. Okay, so that's actually really cool. I want to give you like at least one moment to talk about CUSDC and what that means for Compound as an ecosystem. So go.
Okay, so the stablecoin game is massive. That's like primary use case is volatility of prices of tokens, of MEEP tokens, of course. And then the other one is like stablecoins or remittances. So the thing that we've identified that most chains want and foundations want is a new yield-bearing stablecoins, right? So think USDM, think Athena. And we looked at the contracts and the design of Compound, and inherently embedded in there is a receipt token called a C token. When you push in USDC, you get CUSDC token outside of Compound. So we have brokered a deal with the Ronin chain to incentivize all of their $35 million of USDC to be placed and switched over to CUSDC on the Ethereum mainnet money market, Compound money market.
Is this like what Sonic is doing with SCUSD, which is like there's a token that exists on Sonic, but it is backed by yields on Ethereum?
Yes, very similar.
Okay.
So we're working with Chainlink, we're working with Circle, and we're working with Ronin. Compound, Chainlink, Circle, and Ronin are doing a partnership. Ronin's crazy, dude. They have 700,000 daily active users. And very, very limited DeFi. Most of them are game players, right? Take this game token, right? And you could swap it out into an interest-bearing savings account. So the primary geos are the Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam are the primary users. They generally don't have an active savings account. So we're going to be doing these activations inside of these games in the next 2 months, where we're incentivizing the switch of the gaming token, swap it into CUSDC as a savings rate.
Right.
And now we're teaching the individual who's playing a video game on how to have a savings account.
Right, and has to pay some sort of interest as well.
Yeah. Whatever the Ethereum mainnet interest is currently on USDC will be the standard USDC rate that they get.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
It'll float.
Right.
But it should be cool. There's one other campaign we have too that's kind of interesting.
Go ahead.
That one? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the proposal's up and likely will go through. I mean, it's going for a vote to launch a Linnea USDC market. We've brokered a deal with MetaMask in Linnea to have they have a new MasterCard implementation, right? Where it will drive and swap directly from your MetaMask wallet, right? So inside in Linnea in MetaMask, there will be the ability to have a CUSDC savings rate for all of your stablecoins. It will sit in the Compound market, earning an interest rate until you swipe your card, and then it will convert the CUSDC to USDC and then pay for your goods and services.
Now, we've looked at some cards in the past, and the interesting thing, I asked you about this right before the call, about this is that instead of the typical way that I've seen some cards work, which is, you have your assets, you have your collateral, and it's ETH and BTC, but, a card allows you to spend against it. So you're paying an interest rate. It's kind of like a credit card, but you're instantaneously paying the interest, and you can pay it back whenever you want in the future. Here, it's the opposite. Your assets are collateralized on a lending market, so they're getting a yield. Like effectively, imagine your bank was giving you, 4 or 5% on your stablecoins, and you can spend them whenever you want. This is incredible, and I love this. So this will be on Linea. So like this Linea compound markets.
Yes, Linea compound markets going up in the next 4 or 5 days.
Now,
Wednesday, February 12th.
Will the user be will it be USDC specifically, or will it be an aggregate of rates? Okay, got it.
Yeah, just USDC at 1st.
Mm-hmm. And so are you guys working with Circle on this one to have that be spendable via a card?
So Linea has it under, they kind of are handling all of that, right? Sure, behind the scene. And there's very limited geos that the card will be available in, and you have to do a KYC and an AML. And the kind of interesting thing here is that you're getting like a Sybil resistant way to market to individuals now.
What do you mean?
Because you have to KYC and AML, there will be a way that you can identify the wallets that are interacting with this, and then you can run programs to those wallets and wallet addresses because you know they're real people.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting activation campaigns and activities around that.
Well, we've seen last cycle, or maybe it was like during the depths of the bear, there was a lot of talk around different ways to identify individual customers without like doxing them. There was supposed to be a lot of tech built around that, but that kind of like died in the froth of the bowl. I think we're probably going to see that come back as we see new teams trying to find new ways to incentivize and like finally put a nail in the Sybil coffin. That nail isn't even close yet.
Dude, I invested in a team called Blockchain Ads. They're great. Mm-hmm. Problem with any advertising kind of like engagement or thing like this is that the people that are eating up their ad inventory are Binance and Coinbase and OKX and Kraken. And dude, they're paying like $300 to $400 per new user.
Oh, wow.
So the cost of advertising, like last bull, like 2 years ago when they had just launched, I mean, we were running conversion campaigns that were like massive, where they were, a lot of these NFT markets, a lot of these kind of like, connections with Galaxy and Layer 3 and Zeely, right? Remember that? So like all of these different like interactions, they were mapping all of that data so you could like track them, and then as they hit these they had like 1,500 websites they were connected to that would do this pixel tracking, so you could advertise to people that held particular NFTs.
Right. Yeah.
And then what ended up happening was whoever gives the most money, which ends up being the centralized exchanges, are customers.
Right.
So the utility diminishes because they're eating up all the ad spend.
That's just efficiency. They're just, there's an arbitrage to be made there. I think we just need more sufficient systems that incentivize the right actors rather than the wrong. I mean, you can call the major exchange a wrong actor, but yeah, we'd love
to. Bro, they're making a lot of money.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, man, you've given me a lot to chew on. Hopefully, everyone who's watching this also has a lot to chew on now. This has been fantastic. Is there anything else? So for the good of the space.
We have a lot of these ideas on the Compound forums. If you like them, please go comment. If you think I'm stupid, please go comment as well. These are experiments that we're running to grow the Compound protocol, and engagement helps, like feedback helps.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Well, thank you, Brian, as always, for coming on and just dumping a ton of alpha into my brain that I'll be thinking about for the next few days and talking about. And for everyone else watching, have a wonderful rest of your